The lecture hall buzzed with anticipation. Students shuffled in their seats, awaiting Professor Thompson's renowned philosophical musings. Today's topic, he boomed, is the nature of good and evil. A hush fell over the room. Professor Thompson paced slowly, his gaze sweeping across the eager faces. "Tell me," he began, his voice taking on a sly edge, "did God create everything?" A chorus of yeses echoed back, confident and sure. The professor smiled, a glint in his eye. "Then tell me," he pressed, "did God create evil?" Silence descended upon the lecture hall. Students exchanged uneasy glances. The air crackled with unspoken tension. In the back row, a hand rose hesitantly. It belonged to a quiet young man named David, known more for his thoughtful nature than his classroom contributions. "Professor Thompson," David began, his voice soft yet steady, "I'm not sure I agree with that statement." A ripple of surprise ran through the room. Professor Thompson arched an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh?" he drawled. "And why is that, Mr. Miller?" David stood tall, gathering his thoughts, his mind racing with the concepts he had been pondering for days. He knew this moment was crucial, a chance to challenge conventional thinking. "Professor," he began, his voice steady but curious, "is cold a real thing? Or is it something else entirely?" The professor chuckled, a touch of condescension in his tone, as if amused by the simplicity of the question. "Of course, Mr. Miller, we all feel it. It's a common experience after all." David shook his head gently, a small smile playing on his lips. He was ready for this. "Cold isn't a thing, Professor. It's the absence of heat. We don't create cold, we simply remove heat and perceive its absence as cold. We don't create cold, we simply remove heat and perceive its absence as cold. It's a fundamental difference in understanding." The professor paused, his brow furrowed, clearly taken aback by the depth of David's explanation. David continued, his voice gaining confidence with each word. He felt the eyes of his classmates on him, but he pressed on. "Darkness is the same. It's not a separate entity, but the absence of light. We don't create darkness. We simply block the light, and what remains is darkness." The professor looked thoughtful, nodding slowly as he absorbed David's words. It was a simple yet profound shift in perspective, and the classroom was silent, students intrigued by the discussion. David had managed to turn a simple question into a deep philosophical debate. David smiled confidently, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The professor gave a slight nod, acknowledging the validity of his argument. The discussion continued, with students now debating among themselves, inspired by David's insight. It was a moment of collective learning and growth. Section 4: The Nature of Evil. The lecture hall was utterly still, captivated by this unexpected turn of the discussion. The air was thick with anticipation, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next profound revelation. Professor Thompson, his usual air of authority replaced by genuine curiosity, nodded slowly. His eyes sparkled with a mix of intrigue and admiration for the young student's boldness. David pressed on, his voice resonating with conviction. His words seemed to echo in the silent room, each syllable carrying the weight of his beliefs. "Evil, Professor, is not something God created," he declared, his hands slicing through the air for emphasis. "It is the absence of good, the absence of love, the absence of compassion," he continued, his voice unwavering. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of his fellow students. Each pair of eyes he met seemed to reflect a growing understanding, a silent agreement. "Just as darkness disappears with the introduction of light," he said, his voice softening but losing none of its intensity, "evil diminishes in the presence of good." The room seemed to brighten, as if David's words had brought a new light into the space, illuminating not just the room but the minds and hearts of everyone present. Section 5: A World Filled with Light. In the heart of the university, the lecture hall was abuzz with anticipation. The students, eager and curious, filled the room with a palpable energy. A wave of understanding washed over the room as the professor's words began to resonate deeply. The concepts that once seemed abstract now felt tangible, almost within reach. Professor Thompson smiled, a genuine smile this time, full of admiration. His eyes sparkled with pride as he looked at his students, recognizing the spark of enlightenment in their eyes. "Well said, Mr. Miller," he said, his voice filled with newfound respect. "Well said." The professor's praise was not just for the words spoken, but for the courage to voice them, for the clarity of thought that had emerged. The bell rang, signaling the end of class, but the silence lingered. It was a silence filled with contemplation, with the weight of new ideas taking root. David's words had sparked something profound, a shift in perspective. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a world brimming with possibilities. As students filed out of the lecture hall, they carried with them a renewed sense of hope, a sense that they were part of something larger, something meaningful, a reminder that they had the power to push back the darkness, to challenge the status quo, and to inspire change in their own unique ways, to fill the world with the light of their own goodness. They knew that their actions, no matter how small, could create ripples of positivity, spreading light in even the darkest corners.